What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. How you guys doing? Today I got a project bike a while ago, and it was a 1995 Honda CR80. And sorry, the lighting in here is probably terrible, but we got all the parts over here and up on the back of the truck. But I wasn't gonna really make a series about this. I might have made like a reveal video like once I got it done and everything. I'm actually editing this right now, but I don't know if you guys are watching this or not, but if you are, shout out to Nate, Darnell, Brant, and Tristan. You know who you are. But I've been working on it for a while now, and I put the Kickstarter spindle right here. I put this in wrong, and I figured since I'm already back torn into the engine, I might as well start a video on this and show you guys what I'm doing. So right now, I'm doing, you can't even see it, but I'm taking the clutch out because the spindle won't go back under the clutch unless I take all the clutch out. So I'm gonna have to go find my gear jammer so I can jam a gear so the clutch doesn't spin, so I can take all those off, the pressure plate screws. And then I will be able to pull the clutch off and probably put the Kickstarter spindle back on, and then the clutch basket and pressure plate and all that, steel plates and all that. And then probably put the cover back on, and I bought a brand new gasket for it, but this one's been in it for a couple weeks, so it's got oil and stuff on it. But I'll put that back on. And then I've got a big Rocky Mountain cart that I'm waiting on, and that's got basically everything left that I need for this bike. And once I get all that stuff, then I should be able to put it back together, and I'll probably just make like a final assembly video. And yeah, so I also another announcement. I haven't ridden in a month because when I was at SSR training facility 3 or 4 weeks ago, my bike did, I don't know if it blew up, locked up, whatever, it stopped running. And so it's been at the dealership getting fixed for a month, and we don't know what we're gonna do with it yet because they did like an hour-long diagnostics test on it, and they figured out that, or they guessed that it's the bottom end. So we're probably gonna have them fix it or either send it off to an engine specialist with that, which if we do that, that means we're gonna have to ship my engine to like California or Florida or something. But right now, I'm just gonna focus on the CR80, not worry about the 250 yet. So we're in here looking for my gear jammer. It's somewhere in this because this is the box of parts that we ordered from Minios, and then that's our normal spare parts. So I'm gonna have to look through all this because I know it's somewhere in here. So while we're in here, guys, I figured I might as well show y'all what we've got for the 250. We got a sealed driver kit, something, a gold menthol chain. We got some air filter cleaner. Shout out Maxima. I use all their products. Need to hit me up. And then Maxima SC1. We got, I believe, a throttle cable. And then front and back brakes, packing. We got swing arm bearings. We got steering stem bearings. We got front sprocket for the 250, and then brakes. Oh, there she is. Brakes for the pit bike. There's my gear jammer right there. And then bunch of other random screws, a whole clutch. I don't know what those are, bearings or something, more bearings, brake levers, there's my clutch, there's the actual gear jammer, so there's that, and then a rear sprocket, I think that's a 52, and then, yeah, just a bunch of random stuff. Also, guys, I just want to give a huge shout out to Motion Pro. I'm not sponsored by Motion Pro, but I do use a ton of their stuff, and their stuff is all sick and like really helps work on bikes and making it easier. So huge shout out to Motion Pro. So real quick, I'll show y'all how this gear jammer works. Pretty self-explanatory. You just put it in there, and then once you spin on it, that'll just stop, or once you like try and get that off, it'll just stop the gear from spinning. But I use that. These are all loose, and gonna get the springs out, pull the screws out, springs, pressure plate, all the discs, the hub, and then everything will be held on by a screw in the middle. Take that off, and everything should just slide right off. Also, that last video I said this was the hub, I meant the basket. So got this little piece off, and then the springs come out, and then there's a screw right there, and then the hub should come out, and then I'll pull all the plates out, and there's another screw for the basket, and then once I get that off, everything will come out, put the Kickstarter spindle back in, and then do this whole process backwards. But that just went on like that, screws went in, and then yeah. So we ran into a problem. The center bolt that holds the hub in is actually this one right here. You can't really see it, but right there, and it is like stuck in there like crazy tight. I tried impact driver, I tried breaker bar, I tried everything, but this is the same problem as another YouTuber, 2 Vintage, had. And so I think I'm just gonna try and finagle, big word, the Kickstarter spindle into the under the clutch basket, and then I'm gonna show y'all a little trick with this Kickstarter spindle, which is what I did wrong the first time, and then that way you don't have to do what I do and tear apart the whole bike again. So here's your Kickstarter spindle. You got your return spring. This is the pressure spring, and then I don't know what any of these gears are called, but this one right here, how it's got the little triangle looking thing on it, that goes under the retaining arm under there. So it goes like that and just holds it down. But on top of, let's get some good lighting, on top of this, the main like shaft, you see that little hole like right there? That has to line up with the hole on the, can't really see it, get good lighting. Right there, there's a hole. So those two holes have to line up. So originally mine was like this. See that hole's up there and the other hole's down there. So you have to take this off and make sure that it's right on the slots right there, so that it lines up right there, because that just sets it to where the return spring will have enough pressure on it. So ran into the same problem. I've got the spindle in and it's linked up to that gear down there, but then the return spring, which goes in that hole right there, is caught behind all that, and I'm not able to pull it under the gears because it gets caught in front of that gear up in there, and I can't get it to its return spring. So in the 2 Vintage video, which is another YouTuber, he drilled this screw out, and I don't really know if I'm going to drill that screw out because they don't make OEM hubs for these anymore or baskets, so I don't want to mess the threads up in there or anything. So I'm going to see if I can try and figure out a way to get that in there, but it's not looking like I am. So yeah, kind of stuck right now. Now we're in even bigger trouble because this little sleeve that the inside of the spring slides in came undone because the inside of the spring came out. There's a hole somewhere in there that it goes into. Anyways, I can't get this back on, and then it won't go back in there, so kind of got a problem here. Yeah. So I came over here for some good lighting because I was just messing around with that little clear insert right in there to get this the return spring back on. And the way we did it was take the return spring, or take the, well, since it was all off, I don't know if I can take it off now, but we had everything off, so this return spring and the little sleeve in there, and then we put the return spring in its hole and then pushed it in, and then that made enough room for us to slide the collar over the top of it. So now it's all back assembled, and we're going to try and put it in the 80. So I got the Kickstart assembly back in, but this sleeve right here, I don't know if you'll be able to get an angle on it. You can see, let me see if I can find a way to put my finger in there. That hole right there with the spring that goes into right there, the sleeve is not slid down onto that. And the last time that I had it in and I tried to move this sleeve around to where it would slide down, it like exploded basically, and everything came back up. But the gear is touching the gear under the clutch basket, and then the little stopper is under the retaining arm, and the return spring is in its hole, but just that sleeve isn't messed up. So I'm gonna call it a quit for tonight because I'm tired of messing with it, and if I keep doing it, I'm probably gonna get mad and break something. So I figured I would just call it quits. I'm gonna catch y'all in the morning, so see y'all in the morning. So it's now the morning. We're out here still in the garage, and I'm gonna try and work on what I was talking about last video, which is the sleeve for this return spring, try and get it fixed. And then once we get that put back on, we should just be able to put that case cover back on, and then start assembling everything else. Still waiting on a bunch of parts for all the plastics and stuff, and like the wheels and the sprocket bolts and all that. So yeah, I'll be waiting on that stuff. But once I get all that stuff, I should be able to fully assemble it. All right, guys. So we got the sleeve back down to where it, I don't know what it's called, but where the spring goes into the shaft, it is now over that. But then it popped out of this. So I'm gonna try and hold this down and then pry that return spring back into its hole. But I found a headlamp, so that helps me see a little bit. All right, so finally, guys, we got everything in there. You see gears back here are touching. Then we got the return spring sunk all the way in there. The return spring goes into the shaft hole. The sleeve's down on it. The stoppers under the retaining arm. So everything's down in there good. I'm just going to put the lever on, not like all the way on, but just put it on and rotate it to make sure it's not locked up or anything. And then after that, we'll put the case cover back on, which is under here. And then should be able to put the bike back up on the stand and start putting more stuff back on. All right, guys, this is all good. I'm gonna put the gasket back on and then the case cover back on, and then we'll stand the bike back up. But other than that, we've got basically everything on there. We still got, I took some of the radiator hoses off just to be able to get to this easier. I took the exhaust off, which has got a full pro circuit exhaust, and then we got like chain guide, foot pegs, and other random stuff to put on. But I'm still waiting on the parts. Putting this back on, and when I took it off the first time, I went ahead and did new gaskets for the, like where it touches from the cases, and then a water pump gasket. And then also, when I was pulling this off for the second time, I was hitting it with the rubber mallet and it wasn't moving. And then I just twisted the water pump just a tad bit, and then that gear under there like separated everything. And so it came off easier. So I think that gear was just like stuck or whatever, but everything came off easier. And then now once you're putting it back in, obviously it'll slide over the Kickstarter spindle easily, but then this side might have a little gap in it. So just twist this and that'll set it down on that gear, and then it'll touch and everything will be good. And then you put your screws back in and you'll be all good to go. So actually, when I was putting this on, I've had problems with the screw before. It just threads in and then it just continues spinning, and it's obviously an aftermarket screw. So I'm guessing it's not the right length or something. So I'm going to order up that screw right there and add it to my parts. But other than that, all the other screws went in. And this is on. And then I just got to put the water pump cover on. And I have it right there. You know what? I forgot to put the clutch plate back on. So I got to pull that whole thing back off. Got all this junk off. And then we're putting the cover back on for the clutch. And then have all the screws. And then we'll put the case back on. And then we should be able to sand it back up. So I got the clutch pressure plate screwed in. The springs are pretty compressed, but I did it until they were tight. So then we'll put the clutch cover case thing on, and then we'll be good to go. So clutch cover is back on for the third or fourth time now. Then we're just gonna grab our water pump cover here, clean off that screw just a touch, and then that will just slide on. And all those 8mm screws will just be screwed in. And then we will reconnect our radiator hoses and stand the bike back up. So quick little update, we got the radiator hoses back connected. And then next I think we're gonna put on the exhaust, and then we'll be back to where we were, waiting on parts like the sprockets and the disc. I'm keeping the original disc, but the screws were all like completely rusted and some of them are stripped, so I'm getting new screws for those. And then here are the tires. I also will be needing probably a front tire, because this one, as you can see, has got some major corrosion to it. And then back tire is good. And then I'm gonna try and do something with this gas tank, get it not yellow. But we got the cylinder gasket, but we weren't able to get the cylinder off, so couldn't put that on. But I'll probably just sew that with the bike. But other than that, we still have the foot pegs, which we could put on. And then this is the original cylinder head that came on it. And as you can see, it's not really that pretty with the threads in there. So I drove up to Indiana and got one from a part out bike. And it's black, but the threads at the top are actually really, really good shape. And this one has real bad detonation under it. Like, that's terrible. And so the other one does not have detonation under it. And then gotta put the rear brake back on and the chain guide, and that should be about it before we can get the parts in. All right, so we got the triangle looking piece that comes off the engine that the exhaust goes over. I'm not real sure the technical name. I don't want to call it something wrong. So we attached it with the spring hole up there because that makes the most sense to me with the spring holder on that. You know what I'm saying? So mounted that up, and then I don't have a spring puller, but in my cart of parts there is one. So we got to get needle nose plier and stretch it down to here. That's all good in there now. All right, we got the exhaust back mounted, and it is a super clean Pro Circuit Platinum pipe with the R304 silencer, looking spiffy. So, not sure what we're gonna do next. Probably put the foot pegs on and the chain slider. Oh, we also gotta attach the rear brake pedal because I had to move that out of the way to get to that. And then after that, we'll be back at stage 1. And then probably end the video for there, and we'll start the next video when I have new parts. All right, so just got this one foot peg on, and to put this foot peg on, I did have to take the rear brake back off, which I just took off, and then I zip tied it up to the clutch arm just so it would stay out of my way. But we got the cotter pins to put in here, but I have to put that washer on first, and then I'll put the cotter pins in, and these might be a little bit too thick to fit in that hole, but I will see, and if they are smaller, then we're gonna have to go get new ones. So we got this cotter pin in, and it barely fit, but it fit in there, so we're gonna pry these away from each other, and then we'll go over and do the other side. Also, look at that. I redid all the linkage, and just look at the ooze of grease coming out. So all that's amazing now, and the shock's in. Everything's re-greased, went through, and made sure everything's all right. So I usually hate cotter pins because of how hard they are to get off. But that is one of the best ways I've ever put on a cotter pin, and whoever tries to take that off is going to have a world of pain trying to get that straight. Sorry. So I just got started with the foot pegs and everything, and on this side, the spring goes in the hole right there, and this part of the spring that's like curved goes in the hole, and then the flat side comes up on the frame. But it's weird because on the other side, not really much room over here, so I gotta squat weird. The curved part goes into the frame, and the flat part goes into the foot peg. But got the set-down pin in, and then the washer will go on, and then I gotta put the cotter pin back on.